can't tell if this is distracting or if it's cozy. My lava lamp that usually sits here broke, so I was trying to get some light back in there. Oh. Another month has come and gone, which means I have a wrap-up to do, just like I have the past couple of months. Today, I am going to be talking about all of the books I read, movies I watched, and all of the songs I listened to in the month of October. So let's just get right in. So starting off with books as usual. This month I only read 4 books, which is good, but a little low compared to what I have been. I've started reading more physical books, so therefore I'm a little bit slower. Starting off with a book called What Hunger. This book I saw in the bookstore and I loved the cover, so I requested the audiobook from the library and it was really good. It follows a young girl, I think she's 14, her and her brother and her family life and her school life. It is very coming of age, but it also turns into kind of a revenge plot. I honestly really love revenge stories. Something happens to her and it just kind of follows her spiral, getting angrier and angrier as the book goes on. I love those types of books. I do think it could have been crazier. I think she could have done more. However, she is 14, so I kind of understand. But anyway, that was enjoyable. I love books like that. I gave it 4 stars. And then after that, I listened to another audiobook, and that was Cross Your Heart. I wanted to read a thriller. I wanted like a good classic thriller, just something interesting to listen to, and it was good. It is about this woman who gets a heart transplant and then she becomes obsessed with her donor's husband. So it was interesting. I will say it was like a really good classic thriller. There were twists and turns. I actually listened to this in one day. That tells you anything. Do I remember much of the details? No, but I do remember having a good time. I read this very early on in the month, so I also gave that one 4 stars. And then I read Bloom. Wait, I actually have this book. Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson. This one I picked up pretty recently. This book was really fun. I had a great time reading this. It follows this girl. She's now on her own. She moves to this new place. She doesn't know anyone in town. She starts going to this farmer's market every Saturday. And she meets this girl who sells cupcakes there and she just becomes obsessed with her. In the beginning, I forgot that this was like a horror book. And so I was like, this is so cute. And then as you keep reading, you remember that something's off, and that's all I'm gonna say. This girl that she meets is a very mysterious person. So that was interesting and that was fun. And I just had such a good time reading this. It was so short, only 200 pages, which was really nice because I'm not used to reading with my eyes. This was short and sweet and really fun, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. I gave that 4 stars. And then the last book I read was called The Haunting of Velkwood, which was another audiobook listen. This book follows a girl who used to live on this street that just vanished one day. It was gone, disappeared off the map. And you know, I really wanted to give this book a try. I heard it was pretty good. Again, I saw it in like a recommendation video. And honestly, I just have a hard time with like ghost stories and like paranormal stuff and like supernatural stuff. I'm a very skeptical person when it comes to that. I'm not a believer, and so it's like hard for me to be like, oh yeah. I don't think I even finished this book. I think I got like 80% of the way through. And then my hold like ran out, and so it got automatically returned. I didn't even notice because I was not listening to it very often. So I don't have a rating on that just because I didn't finish it. But I did count it because I read most of it. And that's it. Honestly, ending on kind of a sad note, but what can you do? So with that, we're moving on to movies. So starting off, the first movie I watched in October was Mary and Max. This is an animated movie from the same person who did Memoir of a Snail, which I talked about last month. One of my new favorite movies, just incredible. And I don't watch a ton of animated movies, but after watching that, I was like, I need more. I really want more. Specifically stop motion, claymation. Oh, I just love it. And this one was no different. I absolutely loved it. It follows a pair of pen pals, and one of them is a little girl. It's really cute. She's very lonely. She lives in Australia. She has no friends. She's a loser. So I love the loser representation. And she just like sends a letter to this random dude in New York. Just picks his name out of like a phone book randomly, and they become pen pals, and it's really sweet because he's also kind of a loser, but they find friendship in each other, and it's very, very sweet, and it follows them as they grow up and throughout their lives. Once again, made me tear up. I loved it a lot. And then I watched Poltergeist, which I heard the name before, but I didn't know anything about it. And once again, with like the paranormal kind of stuff, I just have a kind of a hard time. They're just like not my favorite kinds of things to watch or read. I don't know. It was an old movie, so it wasn't very scary in the way the effects were very silly more than anything, but I didn't hate it. It was a good time. I'm trying to be better at watching older movies because I really don't very often. And then I rewatched Bottoms, nothing new. And then I watched May, which is a movie that has been on my list for quite a while, and I loved it. This is another one of those movies where it's exactly my kind of thing. Once again, it is about this outcast loser girl. She's just like very weird, and she doesn't have many friends, and then she meets this guy and she kind of like becomes obsessed with him a little bit. It's one of those movies where there's not a lot of plot, but it follows a weird girl, and by the end she just kind of starts to spiral, and it was great. It reminded me a lot of Excision, which I watched last month, which I loved. Yeah, it was great. I loved it. And then I watched a movie called Lurker, which came out recently. It is about this guy who kind of like worms his way into this up-and-coming famous singer's friend group. The singer wants this guy to kind of film a documentary for him. He's like a camera guy, you know? So that was interesting. I really honestly didn't like it in the beginning. I think because there were just too many boys. But I actually ended up enjoying it a lot. I thought it was interesting. Not my favorite, but in the end, I ended up liking it more than I thought I would. And then I rewatched X, and I rewatched Pearl. Two of my very favorite horror movies. These were some of the first horror movies I watched, and you know, they still hold up. And I rewatched them because I got the DVDs. I found these at Walmart for $5, so. And then I rewatched Shiva Baby. I don't know if I ever talked about that, but it is one of my favorite movies ever. It has Rachel Sennett in it. It has Molly Gordon in it. It is made by Emma Seligman, who made Bottom, so of course I love it. This was her first movie. It is so good. It is so tense. The amount of anxiety that this movie gives you is crazy, and it's really short. It's about an hour and 10 minutes. Takes place in a span of one afternoon. I love it. It's one of my favorites. And then I watched Corpse Bride for the first time. I thought it was the perfect time to watch this because 'tis the season, and also I've kind of been on this animated movie kick, and I'd never seen it. So, of course, the visuals are beautiful. It's beautifully made. I love the character designs. Everyone looks so funny and goofy. Then you have Miss Corpse Bride, who is just so hot. Yeah, I liked it. The story itself, I wasn't the biggest fan of, but I can definitely appreciate it artistically, and I feel like I'd watch it again for sure, just to look at it. And then I watched a movie called Cobweb. Kind of one of the scariest movies I've seen in a really long time. I feel like I don't tend to get super scared in horror movies, but this one was scary. It was genuinely so scary. So points for that, and it was like the perfect time to watch it. It takes place around Halloween. The atmosphere, very spooky, very unsettling. It follows this family. The main character is a child, so, you know, scary. The plot itself, I'm not the biggest fan of. I feel like there were a lot of holes in the plot, but I gotta give it credit for making me scared. That was fun. Definitely a perfect Halloween-y movie. And then I rewatched The Substance. Genuinely one of my favorite movies ever, but I was actually rewatching this for research. I was writing a paper kind of about it, so I had to rewatch it, of course. So technically I was doing homework. And then after that, I watched American Mary, another one of my new favorites. And after watching The Substance, I feel like it was kind of a good double feature. American Mary follows this girl who is in school to become a doctor, and then something happens and it ends up once again being a revenge story, which I wasn't expecting. That kind of very much caught me off guard. But basically, she ends up getting involved in underground body modification. Again, this is like exactly my kind of movie. It's gross. You know, she's a surgeon and she be cutting people up and doing things to them. But it's fun. But yeah, I love this movie. One of my new favorites. It stars Katharine Isabelle, who was in Ginger Snaps. When I first started watching this, I was like, oh, she looks so familiar. And she was Miss Ginger. Another great movie. After that, I watched After the Hunt in theaters, and this is the new Luca Guadagnino movie. His movies are kind of like a hit or miss for me. I feel like I've liked most of them, but really I went to watch this because Ayo Edebiri is in it. And honestly, I didn't love this movie. I still feel kind of conflicted about it because it was very slow and there's a lot of talking. It's just like a drama. It's a drama about professors and students and the messiness of a situation that happens. I don't know. It was fine. It was a little bit too long, I think, honestly. But I really can't complain when I'm watching Ayo Edebiri on the big screen. You know, like I'm gonna enjoy it. And then I watched a movie called Night Shift, which follows this girl who starts working the night shift at a sketchy motel. I didn't love this one. In fact, I really didn't like it. It was bad. It was pretty bad. I don't know. I liked the atmosphere, but it was kind of bad because the main character would think out loud a lot. She'd be like, I'm so tired. Maybe I should get a coffee and stuff like that. And I'm just like, okay, why don't you go get that coffee then? Girl, you don't need to say it to me. There was a pretty good plot twist at the end. It was entertaining. I'll say that. But overall, I'm sorry to that person who made the reel that was like, movies with bad posters that are actually really good. I didn't like this or the poster. Next, I watched this movie called Pariah, and this was a movie that had been on my radar for a little bit because I saw somewhere that it was on a list of Ayo Edebiri's favorite movies. She's a movie girl. She is a movie girl. So I was like, oh well, I need to watch it. And it was really good. It's a coming of age story about a teenage girl who lives in Brooklyn, and she just is kind of like struggling with herself and her identity and the people in her life. Yeah, it made me cry. It made me cry. I really liked it. Very little plot, just coming of age vibes, and I enjoyed it a lot. And then I rewatched Jennifer's Body, another one of my favorites. I saw so many edits on my feed, and I was like, I need to rewatch this. And then in the last 3 days of October, I really locked in and watched like 5 different Halloween-y type movies because I realized I was running out of time and I still had a list of things I needed to watch before Halloween passed me by. So I started with Trick or Treat, which I had never seen before, but you know, it's called Trick or Treat. I thought it was an appropriate time to watch. It follows like different groups of characters, different stories, but it all takes place in the same town and their stories will kind of overlap a little bit. It was fun. It was a good time. Pretty silly, goofy, perfect for Halloween. And then I watched It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, a classic. I didn't realize that this was only 25 minutes. I hadn't watched it in a long time, and when I was younger, I feel like it used to be so long, like a whole movie, but no, it's just 25 minutes and it's perfect. I love the animation. That's one of the things I can really appreciate it now that I'm older, just the art style of it all. And then I watched Coraline once again. It's not like it's super Halloween-y, but it just felt wrong to not watch this again in October. And it's one of those things that I just kind of threw on in the background while I was doing other stuff, and it was perfect. And then I watched Over the Garden Wall, which is not a movie, but a show, a short little animated series you can watch in one sitting. 10 episodes, 10 minutes each. I had seen this before, so I just kind of put this on again in the background while I was doing homework. It's so good. It's so perfect for this time of year. So good, so cozy. You got creepy, cozy, silly, sweet, Melanie Lynskey. You got it all. And then on Halloween, I watched Halloween. Yeah, I'd never seen this movie before. Only like the 2 seconds of it that's in Scream. But it was fun. It wasn't, you know, my favorite movie by any means. I'm glad I watched it, but I feel like the ending was just very underwhelming. And the breathing was gross. I hated the breathing. Get out of my ear with that. So those were all the movies. Let's discuss some music. So every month I do make a new playlist. However, I didn't listen to my October playlist too much, if I'm being honest. I've been listening to a lot of albums, a lot of CDs. I've been back listening to a ton of Fall Out Boy, Pierce the Veil, My Chemical Romance, 21 Pilots, a lot of Paramore too recently, rotating through a lot of their albums when I'm in the car. That kind of genre of music I just love in the fall and winter time. I love to dig out the old 7th grade playlists. I've also still been listening to a ton of Lucy Dacus. In October, she released like a deluxe version of Forever is a Feeling. She called it the Archives, but it was basically just like a couple more songs, some different versions. We got Lost Time extended version, but Lost Time is my favorite song on that album, and so when I heard that there was a Lost Time extended version, I was so excited, and it's so good. So I did have that one song on repeat a ton, but also just that album once again in general. I feel like I got right back into it. I don't know, not a ton of new stuff this month. I feel like I've just been returning to a bunch of older music that I have listened to before. We got some Ethel Cain in there, some Muna, of course, some Phoebe Bridgers. Very fall, autumnal vibes, at least to me. I feel like I really associate music with the seasons. So that's kind of it. I feel like kind of anticlimactic ending, but that's how it be, I guess. Thanks for watching. If you want to follow any of my like profiles, the link is in the description box, you know. Also, if you missed it, I've been making jewelry and accessories, little keychains and bracelets and necklaces and stuff, and it's all on my Etsy if you're interested. Okay, that's it. Thanks. Bye.